listeners, this is Unlock the LSAT, and you're listening to your host, Vicky, again. And I actually had recorded this a while ago, but the sound quality, I'm still trying to figure it out. So that one didn't come in too clearly. But essentially, today I wanted to talk about study groups and why sometimes I actually don't think it's a good idea. All right, so I think my next episode will be it will be about my LSAT journey, which I ultimately would have preferred to have a crystal clear, perfect journey and the perfect score, but yeah, life sometimes has its own plan for us and we have to go with the flow. But anyway, so yeah, I will kind of try to explain why I don't think that study groups are it without going into too much detail. But first of all, I think it's so important to, once again, like I kept saying, be autonomous. You're going into law school, you're going to need to be independent. Even if you have some type of support along the way, you have to be ready to do the work yourself. And I think a problem with sometimes people being involved in study groups is they don't know how to separate and detach from other people. And one of the things is that if you're not studying with me, then maybe I have less reason to study reading comprehension or logical reasoning. I don't think that that's a good thing, because you can't keep leaning on others for your progress and your growth. You have to be willing to do the stuff on your own. Another thing is sometimes you're studying with people that are far advanced from where you are, or maybe way below where you are. And sometimes that could hinder your progress, or you might be hindering someone else's progress. A higher score should be studying predominantly with other high scorers. I'm just going to say it that way. I used to be that lower scorer sitting with higher scorers, and I don't think it was very beneficial, especially towards the ego. It's not because they were, being helpful and blunt when it comes to helping me understand. It's that, quite honestly, a lot of them, they didn't know how to explain it for someone who doesn't understand. So whatever they say, it doesn't resonate sometimes. And then also they could be dismissive of someone choosing an answer which is obviously wrong to them. And you start to kind of feel out of place and potentially even offended. And then also, I think you can start to buy into toxic pattern of idealizing a 180 or obsessing over a 170 plus score, which, depending on what you're aiming for as a career in law school, or not career in law school, but being in law in the future, that might not be necessary for your case. And you need to keep your environment around people that are not going to distract you with some idealistic goal that maybe your timeline, maybe who you are as a person, maybe your life at this time is not going to allow you to do that. Maybe you only have one more shot left and you're 5 times within the 5-year score period, and it's not going to go the way that it could for someone who has a fresh 4 or 5 tries that they just started to attempt. And I don't know why I keep seeing people fixate on the 5 times. It is 7 times within a lifetime, at least. But, who's going to be waiting another 5 years on purpose after the first 5 years are done? But yeah, these are some of the things that happens when you're in a study group. You're either studying with people who are too advanced, studying with people who are not on the same level as you. I didn't go into this in depth enough just now, but essentially, when you have people that are not scoring on the same score pattern, it can sometimes help you to explain, but it could also eat at time that you need to be able to work on your struggles. Maybe you're explaining basic conclusion recognition questions, and this is so straightforward at this point, but you're trying to help someone understand when you could be focusing on maybe parallel type questions. Maybe that's a weakness for you. It could be anything, but that's just an example. Maybe it's more strongly supported type questions instead. So you cannot have like some kind of unequally yoked pattern as far as your study group or your study buddy. You have to make sure you're in the right place so that you're not wasting your time, because that's what the main issue is. Your time is very valuable, and you have to be aware with that. I'm also going to say sometimes you could get a little bit too cliquey within the LSAT study community. Depending on where you are, you could get caught up in conversations that you don't need to be in. Unfortunately, this has happened to me, and it's a waste of your time. It distracts you from your main purpose, your main goal. Next thing you know, you're talking about your life story, someone's talking about their life story, and you can bond, which is wonderful. But at the end of the day, you have a goal, and you need to accomplish that goal before wasting your time. Sometimes where these relationships don't last, or they don't have a future, and now you're stuck because someone else is already where they need to be. They already were a higher score, and you kind of wasted your time building some connection within that moment when you should have predominantly been focusing your studying. And when it goes off track, say, you know what, I have to go to sleep because I have to study tomorrow, or I have to log off so I can do more questions. So yeah, these are the things that sometimes happen. You get too close and maybe too comfortable even within some of these spaces, and it could invite some unpleasant situations. It could invite heartbreak. It could invite traumatic experiences that didn't happen in the first place. So you just want to make sure, am I getting what I need to get from being within this studying group environment or study group community, or am I mostly wasting my time and getting depressed, or is everybody else scoring better than me and I just feel like the odd one out, and people keep telling you you'll get better, it just takes more practice, and you keep going around them and you're just not seeing anything change. You need to separate yourself and get isolated and work on studying. And within some of the mainstream platforms, they do have classes, and those could be somewhat addictive, unfortunately. It creates a nice experience in terms of being able to study amongst other people and meet other people. However, sometimes lines could become blurred and things could be a little rough in terms of navigating, just keeping things LSAT focused and also being human. So you have to be mindful of not to get too caught up or too attached within these spaces, and recognize or realize, like, okay, I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to build connections. I'm here to ace the LSAT. I'm here to get into law school, ace the bar, and then keep on moving forward. If you make connections along the way, make sure that it's not because you're spending too much time getting all caught up in, group think. groupthink, oh, I'm going to this LSAT class today again, and I'm going to be around these three people that I know, and then you're not focusing primarily on yourself, or you could just get caught up in a lot of drama. So that's something to be mindful of in these spaces. I can say that some elements of those type of spaces could be beneficial to some degree. However, it could also hinder your progress. It could also hurt you, and you need to make sure to remain more so autonomous and not get wrapped up into these connections that might not be real connections. And if you listen to my talk about my experience in going to law school for one semester that time, one of the things that happened was once I wasn't able to continue forward, I could talk to some people. Like, I was able to talk to a few lawyers that I had met through some of those experiences, and one of the first people that I met who was another law school student there, and she graduated, and we kept contact for a while. As most of the others, it just became kind of like uncomfortable, or they just didn't really talk to me anymore because I was no longer involved in that space, which is just kind of natural or normal. But you don't want to be that person that kind of just got caught up into the social atmosphere of this, and you're still studying for the LSAT while other people have moved on with their lives and maybe don't even talk to you anymore. So you need to balance that. Don't get caught up into these communities. You really need to focus on your self-improvement and your end goal through this LSAT journey, which is I'm studying the LSAT to increase my score. I might meet people, but that is really secondary, and don't get drawn in. All right. I think one more thing too would just be, you need to make sure that you're around the right people. Sometimes people don't know how to deliver information well, and you need to be able to find that out sooner than later. Like, if you realize that maybe somebody's invited you to an LSAT study group or one of these mainstream platforms, and you've realized that you're stagnated, you're not seeing progress, or you've just been around for a while, it might be time to find a new approach, find a new platform, because time is our most valuable commodity, and you can't have people waste your time. You can't have people wasting your money either. So yeah, I hope that that wasn't too much rambling. But essentially, I just think that people can fall into a codependence on study groups and the bigger communities and ways that don't help them. If perhaps you're already PTing in the high 170s or mid 170s and you want to hang around people, you've already pretty much reached a space where you can comfortably be around people and not feel like you're wasting your time, because you've gotten to the top, and you just need to be consistent, balancing, this time spent with other higher scorers, while, fine-tuning your progress. But I feel like people below 170, you have to be very, very careful of sticking into bigger groups longer than you should, and realizing when you're perhaps getting stagnated, because you can only improve as much as the people around you are able to explain things clearly to you, having the time, the consistency. Because when people cancel and when people move on with their lives past their score and they're no longer around, you don't want to be feeling like you're missing something or you don't have a key part of your study routine, you need to have that self-reliance and knowing that you can do it. All right, I think that's going to be it. Keep on working towards your goals, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.